Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is game 13 from the 2023 World Chess Championship match. Jan Nepomniachtchi has the white pieces in this one, and we are tied 6-6 in this race to 7.5. Let's have a look. Another e4 game, another Ruy Lopez. We follow game 5 of this match until move 10. That's where play deviates, that's where white deviates. We have a closed Ruy Lopez, and the familiar kicking of the light square bishop to b3, and nearby trying to track this bishop down now that that's secure. We've seen a3 and c3, another c3, castles h3, this is cut out, bishop gets on the main diagonal. Okay, in game 5 it was a4, followed up with knight a5 and c5. This time around, bishop e3. This is where we deviate from game 5 with this 10th move. Queen knight still goes hunting for the bishop. That's not going to happen. The c-pawn is able to now play. Familiar structure to us. From here, knight d2. Before d4 can be played, this is what this bishop is supporting, a d4 pawn break. This knight needs to watch over e4. There is pressure on it by two minors, and now white is there supporting it with two minors. Additionally, we have c4 under control. This knight could hop in here at some stage, so in short, this guy covers two important squares from d2. Now in the game, rook e8 is played, and the reply to that is a4. I want to put a different move on, though. I think this is an instructional moment. This seems like a very natural-looking square for the queen. It's a fine move. But do know that a4 in this position would no longer be a good reaction. Why is that? It's because black would be able to play in the center with d5. And black is probably for choice here. There's ideas to press forward, establish a pawn in white's house, and basically black is hitting in the center before white is given an opportunity to play d4. What's the difference between these two moves? It's that the queen from c7 secures e5. This makes the d5 push possible. Rook e8, not so fast. d5 right now would hang e5. So it's important to take that into account. White needs to be in a spot to react energetically in the center in a timely fashion with d4. Okay. From here we have h6, d4. Now, during the press conference, Nepomniachtchi pointed out that part of his thinking at this stage on the move 14 was, you know, do I play this right away, or do I first flick in A takes B and only then go forward with d4? All right. From here, it's d4. E takes d4. Now, what's going to happen here is black, in the end, captures on d4 twice. But I like the order that it's played. It's going to turn out to be the same, but I like taking with the e-pawn first by black. I think that this is more precise, and you'll notice the clock times, Liren's next move. You know, he didn't play this straight away. He has 97. He spent about 8 minutes on this decision. There are other options here. Why do I like capturing first with the e-pawn, first of all? Well, it kind of justifies the rook e8 move. It's now a half-open file. Black is certain of that, right? The rook will find active play. There's going to be additional pressure on e4. However, if you were to start with c takes and then c takes, you really don't have an option here as black, because if you don't capture now, white's able to play d5, and then this move kind of looks ridiculous. The difference here is that after takes, the moves played in the game, black now has an option. So these next 8 minutes he was spending on this position He could be considering, he didn't share this, this wasn't a position that was talked about during the press conference, but he may have been considering a move like knight to d7 and basically being in a spot to meet d5 with maybe knight to b6, eyeing up c4 and bishop to f6. This is, the pieces actually take up some nice posts. So there are some different options, in short, that black has by first capturing on d4 with the e pawn. This is half open straight away. Different options right here. Okay, at the end of the day, he chops away on d4. Knight takes d4, and it's right around this point where you could see why Nepomniachtchi was thinking about maybe first flicking in a takes b5 before going for d4. You'll notice after this last recapture on d4, the knight is not necessarily threatening to, well, it isn't ready to take a pawn on b5. However, if this capture and recapture was already in there, this would be a threat. Black would have to tend to that in some way. So the reply in this game on move 16, how is black dealing with the pressure on b5? He's playing the knight into c4. He's saying, take me, I'm going to recapture, and I don't have to worry about a b pawn. I have a c pawn all of a sudden. This last move is very irritating. Pressure on the knight, bishop, pawn. Kind of intolerable. Pretty much have to get rid of this guy. That's what he goes for. It's not considered best. This is where we have some shift in the evaluation, a slight one. Computer's pointing out, save the bishop and be okay with giving up e4 because you're going to get the b pawn. So this is one of the lines it is pointing out where we get this sequence here, a lot of chops. And in the end, we have d versus b pawn in equal position. Okay. In this game, the knights are traded. And now there's a problem here on e4. How exactly to defend it? It's a bit tricky. In the game, we have f3. So this is a very weakening move. It weakens e3 and g3. And to make these weaknesses with still so many pieces on board, there starts to be some king safety issue. Not in the short term, but, several moves down the road, there could be some problems for the white king. This is the big difference I'm seeing in the position right now. King safety. Okay. Black king more secure. So this is his way to secure e4. Possible problems on this diagonal. Possible problems now on e3 or g3. Okay, the reaction here is bishop to f8. Gets out of the rook's way. And nearby there's now d5. So this is an important moment. Different ways the structure can change. I'm saying d5 only at this stage, you'll notice. Instead of bishop f8, if black tries to break with d5 now, the reply e5 favors white. We get this alpha 0 pawn established in black's camp, and we can follow up with f4. For example, if knight d7, f4, this is an excellent structure for white. Amazing pawn. Possible attack, a likely attack for white. So things can change in a blink if black is not careful. He's careful, finds the best move, bishop f8. So now this is nearby and e5 would not be there. The rook has it defended. In the game, the bishop gets out of danger. This pawn is no longer pinned. And one of the thoughts Nepomniachtchi shared during the press conference was this move, bishop f4. This is what he was considering on this move 19. He spent about 9 minutes on this move. He was considering bishop f4, but he didn't like this structural change. He thought after d5, e5, knight d7, and defense, how am I saving the pawn is basically what he said in the press conference. He's got a good point. It seems like this one is toast. Hit 3, defended twice. If you try to add a third defender, you're running into moves like f6. How many pins are there? There's problems here for white. So this pawn may very well, in short, this guy right here on e5 may turn out to be simply overextended, and it's bound to fall. So his approach was to take on a passive position. That's one of the terms he used in the press conference. Just kind of duck and cover mode. Just let this guy camp out on f2, watch over these sensitive squares. You know d5 is happening, and there's not much you could do about it. So d5 hits, e takes d5, knight takes d5, and it was interesting to hear Liren express some words about the d5 advance. He said that he thought that this was beneficial to black, and he viewed it very similar to a Sicilian defense. That d5 pawn break is a liberating move and just a desirable move in the opening. So even though it wasn't a Sicilian defense here, Ruy Lopez has a Sicilian defense feel to it, getting the d5 pawn break in. It was an isolated pawn, and it was exchanged off. If we look at these, we throw these guys under the microscope. This is one of 4 pawns. He's within a pawn island of 4, and it's being exchanged for this backward pawn. So black should be the one benefiting here, getting these exchanged. And now the scope of the light square bishop is extended as well, with the e pawn removed. So earlier f3 was there doing what? Supporting a pawn. What function does it have now? Well, white in a way finds a way to justify it still. Puts the bishop on e4, pins the knight to the bishop. Now from here, a good move is rook to b8. It's considered one of the best moves to defend the bishop. Liren spent quite a bit of time on this move 21. Ends up playing rook to e8. So he spent about 25 minutes. And he was asked multiple questions at this point during the press conference. What more was he considering? And he was considering rook to b8. And he wasn't sure of what exactly is the follow-up. He kind of saw this position in his head after queen d2. He thought, b2 is secure at this stage. Wasn't quite sure exactly how to follow up at this point. It's good for black in the computer's eyes, but this is kind of where his head was at. He saw this position right here. What is one of his ideas behind rook to e5? He shared this as well. He wants to be in a spot to recapture on d5 with the rook. So with this last move, he's saying, if you take here, you're going to be in a big pickle. This is winning. This would be winning for black if we have the bishop for knight exchange. So we can't play that now as white. We can't simply eliminate the knight. Additionally, there are some sharp moves. Now, I was pointing out the weaknesses for the white king. g3, e3, I said white has the weaker king. There are some sharp moves in this position right here. Here's one of them. Knight to f4. Giving up a full piece in order to get this arrangement here, which is really strong. It's considered an equal position. There's a mate threat on g2. There's a problem here. So there are these ideas that are in the air for black. Maybe the check, maybe rook b8, take on b2. the queens are still around. It can be maybe a tricky defense. These tactical resources are there for black. Calls it an even position. So he didn't think too deeply of this idea right here, but certainly rook b8 was given some thought. During these 25 minutes, in the end, he plays rook to e5. From here, rook c1, rook c8, and now we have knight to e2. This does open up a new square for a queen, a bishop, maybe looking to reposition, get the knight on g3, maybe even c3. From here, queen e7. So this is an interesting moment. He spent about 4 minutes. This was considered the best move, queen to e8. He played queen to e7. What's a difference or two between these two posts? They both form a battery. That's no difference. From e7, what is she doing? The move played in the game, queen e7. She's defending the bishop, which now frees this knight up to move. It's no longer pinned. At the same time, the queen is in the way of the bishop. This guy no longer has a move. So queen e8 wouldn't unpin the knight, but it stays out of the bishop's way. Now, after queen e7 in the game, queen d4 is played. And then we have f5, trying to crash through on this e-file. The reply here is bishop to g3. And what's going to happen is black gives up the exchange, and we're going to get a queen exchange. We go straight into an ending. However, you'll notice a difference with the location of the queen on e8. If queen e8 was played and then queen to d4, now f5 is very effective because this move is no longer an option. Why? The bishop is free to move. The queen is not in the bishop's way. Black would be able to meet bishop g3 with bishop to c5, and there goes the queen. So a nice little subtlety, a couple moves down the line, a difference here between queen e8 and queen e7. In this game, it's queen e7, queen d3, f5. This was all calculated with f5. Black knew bishop g3 was right around the corner, and he was going in for this exchange sacrifice. Queens are now gone. Endgame on board. What's the imbalance? Light square bishop and passed e-pawn versus the rook. From here, rook f to d1. Knight b3, certainly with an eye on that d3 square. It's trying to be disruptive to the white rooks. Cut them off. Pressure on b2. Maybe another pass pawn is right around the corner. Pass c-pawn. From here, rook d7. Bishop c5 check. King h2. It's the ending. Isn't the king supposed to move towards the center? Not so fast. There are still a lot of pieces that can cause the king a problem. If king f1 checks, maybe another check, landing a fork, it's too dangerous to simply approach the center. These guys cover a lot of ground. The knight is not just a 3-point piece when it's on d3. An octopus knight. It's covering a lot of ground. So king has to hang a right. From here, bishop c6. Didn't have any choice, really. Counterattack, rook c7. This is desirable. White is up. Okay, material just by a point, for example. Seeking a rook exchange is usually a good idea for the side who's up the material. It's going to hopefully make the maneuvering for this guy a little bit easier. We get that rook off. And from here, there's an only move. He finds it. Bishop to d5. Taking this pawn, it's poison. If you take on a4, there would follow rook takes c4, and white will be winning the e-pawn and winning the game. From here, it's bishop d5, only move, best move. These two are secure. Knight c3. And the bishop doesn't move here. In the game, it's knight to d3. This is an important point. If you go ahead and simply react with bishop to c6, this knight could still take on this square, because in the end, rook takes c4 is hitting yet again, just like the variation with the bishop capturing on a4. Similar story. Now it's both bishops who are hit, and one of them will soon fall. Notice before you go in for a tactical sequence like this, you'll want to make sure that one of these guys can't move and generate a threat. For example, if this guy was here, black would be able to play bishop d6 check and then rescue the bishop next. Not the case here. Bishop c6 fails to the capture on e4, and then rook takes c4, winning the piece back. So, black needs to counterattack and does with knight d3. From here, rook c2, bishop c6, and from here we have a5, so at some point there could be a bishop b6 move. Black is capturing, that's going to be a scary passed pawn. From here, king f7, rook to e2, and how are we dealing with this pressure? So we're at move 36, just a few moves out from meeting time control. It's hit twice, defended once. In the game, knight c1 attacks the rook. Rook e1. Do you see where we're going? Knight d3. Rook e2. And from here, the knight goes back to c1, but not so fast. Notice the clock time. Some time was spent on this decision. Black was considering some other move at this point. And what exactly was that move? He was considering king to e6. He shared this in the press conference. He didn't go for it, though. If king e6, there can follow knight takes e4, takes, king d5, rook e8, knight takes pawn, and Liren said that there could be some idea for a perpetual like this, or maybe even an idea by white where the bishop could get on this main diagonal, maybe winning a pawn, helping to stop this passed pawn. He didn't go for this. It was maybe a bit too much. He didn't think there was anything positive about it. Both players remained very objective around this stage in the game. They didn't push their luck in any way. Also, in this position, Nepomniachtchi added that this move right here didn't get white anything. Knight takes e4 in this position on move 37 wouldn't really amount to anything. Black would have this cool looking move, bishop to g1, check. Well, first of all, I should add, if knight takes rook, there's knight takes pawn, opposite color bishop ending. There really isn't anything here. This pawn is easily defended. Bishop on b5 guards everything, but Nepomniachtchi pointed out that simply after knight takes e4, black would have this flashy move, bishop check, knight takes rook check, and you could go into this position right here. Why would white want to go into this ending? It is a draw, but you're not gaining anything by going for this variation right here, kicking off with knight takes e4. Bishop g1 is kind of cute. But in the end with this one, we simply have both players remaining objective, not pushing their luck, and a repetition on board. We don't even get to move 40. A draw in this game 13, which puts us at 6.5 each. This was a little over a 3-hour game 13. A rest day tomorrow, and we're going to see what happens on the weekend. Saturday, game 14. So let's have a look at the tail of the tape. Very high level game for a little bit there in the middle game. Favoring black for a bit. Endgame on board. Maybe maybe white was a little bit better, but yeah, nothing significant for either side throughout. At the end of the day, 95% accuracy for each side. If we are tied after game 14, Sunday will be a big day to break the tie with rapid games, and if necessary, blitz games. There'll be at least 3 games played. It's a best of 4 rapid games with time controls 25 minutes, 10-second increment. We'll see what happens. It's going to be decided for sure on the weekend. Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it, and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.